So I can start then?
You can start, yes.
All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order then at 6:02. Should I bring up the agenda on my own screen?
No, I will start screen sharing. Just one moment
Okay.
here.
Should I start with the statement then?
Yes, go ahead with that.
All right. So now that we're going to be doing electronic meetings, we have a new policy that the chair has to make a statement at the beginning of every meeting. So I'll just read this out. This committee meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Any comments made during this meeting will form part of the public record. Public viewing of the meeting is also available in the SLRD boardroom in Pemberton. This meeting is being held virtually, with some or all meeting participants attending via electronic or other communication facilities. Committee members will be involved in and participate in the meeting. Committee members will identify themselves when advising the chair that they wish to be placed on the speakers list, and this will be done by raising their hands. The chair will record the order in which the hands are raised and will allow the committee members to speak in the order in which they are recorded. If committee members are unable to raise their hands due to being in audio mode, they will verbally advise the chair of their intention to speak. Committee members will mute their device unless they wish to speak. The chair or the staff liaison may also mute the microphones, and the committee members may unmute the microphones on their own accord when required. With respect to a vote, committee members are only required to state a nay vote, i.e., directors are not required to voice a yay vote. Committee members attending the meeting are required to verbally advise the chair or the staff liaison if they leave the meeting and when they return to the meeting, so that this can be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. For clarity, if a committee member does not verbally advise the chair or the staff liaison, but is observed by the staff liaison to be absent from their video feed, and their video feed remains turned on, and it is unclear to the staff liaison whether they are present in the meeting, the committee member will be marked absent from the meeting until such time as the staff liaison observes that the committee member has reappeared in the video feed. Committee members will email the staff liaison if they have a technical difficulty with their connection and need to be reconnected to the meeting. If a technical difficulty occurs, resulting in the meeting not being projected on the wall display in the SLRD boardroom, the meeting will be recessed until the projection is reestablished. If a technical difficulty occurs and it becomes apparent that a committee member has been disconnected from the meeting and the meeting's quorum is not maintained, the meeting will be recessed until the committee member returns to the meeting. Committee members who are attending electronically and declare a conflict of interest in respect of an agenda item will be placed in the virtual waiting room by the staff liaison while the committee considers the agenda item. Once consideration of such agenda item is finished, the staff liaison will readmit the committee member into the virtual meeting room. And lastly, committee members who are present within the virtual waiting room are asked to stay at their computer or otherwise remain present and connected to their computer if possible for the entire duration of their time in the virtual waiting room, so as not to miss their readmittance into the virtual meeting room. And that's the end of the chair statement for virtual meetings. So as far as the draft agenda, the purpose of this meeting is to convene the Area C Agriculture Advisory Committee to review, discuss, and provide comments and recommendations to the board on agricultural issues. Key objectives for this meeting are to review and discuss the residential flexibility changes to the ALCA and ALR use regulation, which come into force on December 31st, 2021. And to review the 2022 AAC membership and application process for new members. So Can someone move to approve the agenda? Okay, Russell. Do we need to have a seconder, Alex?
Yes.
I can't see anyone's hands.
Okay.
All right, Elliot.
Carrie, can you see Simone? Because she had her hand up. I could see it, but I'm not sure if you can.
I can't see her.
Okay.
Did she have her hand up with Zoom or did she just have her actual hand up?
Oh, she had her actual hand up.
Yeah, she's not on my screen, so I can't see her.
Do you have the little arrow at the bottom of the, like if you go down at the bottom of the images, there should be a little arrow so you can scroll?
So do I need to scroll so I can see who's participating?
You may need to scroll.
All right.
Or rearrange your view on the top right corner.
Now I see fewer people. Oh, there we go. All right. Can we have someone, we have the minutes from the previous meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review them? Did anyone have any problems with the minutes from the last meeting? It looks like everyone was okay with it. Can I have someone make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting? All right, Simone. And can someone second that? Russell. All right. So moving on with the agenda. Do you want to go over the previous minutes? No?
No, I don't think we need to unless there were any issues raised. Before we dive into the next piece, Carrie, if it's all right, I just have one more thing I'd like to say.
Sure.
Okay. So I mentioned this at the beginning, but I'm not sure that everyone was here. So just a couple of things. You gave that great introduction. Thank you for doing that. So I just want to note that you'll see in terms of participants tonight that we have the SLRD boardroom as a participant, and that is just to fulfill the requirement of having a public viewing space available at the SLRD boardroom. And then we also have Philippa Campbell joining us, and she's providing technical support as well in the SLRD boardroom. So just so everyone knows the full list of participants. And then I also mentioned that area directors are now full appointed members of the AAC. So Director Mack will also be able to participate and vote on motions during the meeting tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alex. All right, so moving on with the agenda, we are going to do a review of the residential flexibility changes. I'm assuming that, oh, yeah, there it is. Alex is going to do a presentation for us on the slides that we were given in our, before the meeting.
And Carrie, just before Alex starts, I just wanted to make note that Randy did say in the chat that he's connected, but on the public link and not within the panelist link. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware that he is on the line.
Okay.
Okay. Let me just pull up the slides here. I'm just going to get Pip to add, she'll be able to add Randy as a panelist as well. Okay, so as far as the ALC residential flexibility piece goes, I'm just going to give a really brief overview tonight. I would encourage anyone that's interested in diving into it in a little bit more detail to watch the presentation tomorrow. So one of the ALC planners is going to be sorry, not tomorrow, on the 16th, on Thursday morning at 11, I'll send out the details, but one of the ALC planners is going to be presenting to the committee of the whole. And as these are their slides, I think she'll be able to give a little bit more detail. And I would encourage, so if you're able to watch that, or if there's any questions that come up, you can send them to me directly, and I will liaise with their staff to get answers to those questions that we can go over either via email, or if we have an AAC meeting scheduled for early next year, we'll do it at that point in time. So what these slides are, is these are slides that the ALC presented to local government staff, to regional planning staff, just a really high level overview of the changes that are coming into force in a couple of weeks here. And I do think that most of the AAC members are likely familiar with these, so I'll just keep it pretty high level. So this is what is currently permitted. And I do want to preface this by saying this is at the provincial level, but local government has the authority to regulate residential uses further. So we'll get into the specifics of the Area C zoning after this. But currently under the ALCA, Agricultural Land Commission Act and Use Regulation, you can have up to a 500 square meter principal residence. And you are allowed one other dwelling unit under those regulations, which is a 9 meter wide manufactured home, but it has to be for immediate family use, or family member use rather. So with the changes that are coming into force at the end of December, there's kind of two sets of regulations here. So one for parcels that are 40 or less than 40 hectares. You can have that up to 500 square meter principal residence, and there's going to be one additional residence of up to 90 square meters permitted under the provincial regulations. And then if you have a larger parcel, you may have one lawfully constructed principal residence. It has to comply with the Agricultural Land Commission Act limit, which is currently also set at 500 square meters. And then you may have one other residence of up to 186 square meters. So a little bit of a additional size there. One thing to note is if there's a parcel where there is currently a principal residence, it's over that 500 square meters, or if there's a principal residence on a parcel of any size and there's already an additional residence, then you do still have to go through the Agricultural Land Commission for an application. So the additional residence provisions wouldn't automatically apply in that case. So really the intent behind this is to create more flexibility for farmers. So, well, for both farmers and non-farmers, it includes some more flexibility around purpose. So where the current regulations state that you can only use your additional residence, your manufactured home for immediate family, this could be used for a multitude of purposes. One important thing to note is that local governments do, I think I already said this, but always have the authority to regulate further and restrict residential uses based on the community need. So in terms of the legislative framework, I've mentioned there's the Agricultural Land Commission Act at the provincial level, and falling underneath that are the local regional growth strategy, the official community plans, and then the zoning bylaws, which really get into those, kind of drill down into the land use pieces. So again, I've said this, but local governments can regulate or prohibit residential uses. So what does this mean? It will allow for a more different types of housing, so a range of flexible housing forms. It will allow for a principal residence to be constructed in addition to a manufactured home. So in a case where you have just a manufactured home on the parcel, that would be considered the principal residence. You are able to build a second dwelling, which would then become the principal residence if that's all you have on the parcel under these regulations. So these were some notes kind of more about the zoning bylaw piece directed specifically at local government. So using that gross floor area definition. Secondary suites. So a secondary suite would be allowed in the principal residence. There is not an intention to allow a secondary suite in that second residence. In terms of order of placement, if you have, you could have your smaller residence first, as I mentioned, like the manufactured home or a smaller residence, and then build your principal residence afterwards. If you have an existing residence on the parcel that exceeds those sizes of 90 square meters or 186 square meters, then you cannot go ahead and build a second dwelling. So in terms of grandfathering, any residence that was constructed lawfully prior to these regulatory changes coming into effect would be grandfathered. So that would include an additional residence that's necessary for farm use, the manufactured home for a family member, an additional residence that has already been given conditional approval by the ALC, residences that predate the ALR, not applicable, I don't think, in Area C, but additional residence is from the former Zone 2 and accommodation above an existing structure on a farm. There's no right to replacement. So if there's damage that exceeds more than 75% of the home, then there's no right to replacement in that case. So manufactured homes will not be limited to the owner or owner's immediate family after December 31st of 2021, but it has to stay the same size and footprint as they currently stand. And if someone was to go and get all the necessary authorizations to place that dwelling on their property prior to the end of this month, they can still do the placement after that date. And again, if that's the only residence on a parcel at the end of this year, it will be considered the principal residence. So soil and fill, this is a pretty critical one. There's no outright soil and fill provisions for that second dwelling use. So if you were to be building a second dwelling, you have to apply through the ALC, either a notice of intent or an application, depending on the amount of fill. So fill again means any material that's brought onto the ag land except for the exempted materials. Okay, so with non-adhering residential use applications, currently today's regulations apply. Within a couple of weeks that will change over. And additional residences that do not meet the regulations, the new regulatory changes, will still require to go through that non-adhering residential use application process, and will only be allowed or permitted by the ALC if they're necessary for farm use. And again, if there's a principal residence already on the parcel that's more than 500 square meters, an additional residence would also require that application. I'm gonna go through or just skip over these ones because I think that's a little bit less applicable to our conversation tonight. This is more directed at planning staff and the development of bylaws. So just talking about the potential implications of, you're just looking at the parcel, but what does that look like as you kind of zoom out to the area, and then what does the impact look like at the regional scale? So a lot of these different bylaw considerations that the ALC was discussing with planning staff are things that are already in place in Area C. So for example, there is a residential footprint in place in the zoning bylaw. Secondary residences are tied to farm use. There is a limit to the lot size. So I'm just going to go ahead here a couple of slides. What I'm going to do is jump into what is currently allowed in Area C. So I just want to talk really briefly about the existing zoning bylaw that's in place. And there's a couple of small areas where there will be changes required as part of these regulatory changes. So in Area C, there's one agriculture zone, which is AGR1, and that includes the following residential provisions. So there's a principal farm residence is a permitted use up to 350 square meters. So a bit smaller than what's allowed at the provincial level. Secondary suites are currently permitted in the principal farm residence, so there's no changes required to either of those. There are provisions to allow for a farm employee residence only on parcels over 4 hectares, and that does require farm class, and that needs to be demonstrated for approval. So currently in our bylaws, the maximum size for that is 180 square meters. That will need to be amended to fall in line with the size requirements under the ALCA and ALR use regulation. And then there are provisions for temporary farm worker housing. So that's permitted on parcels over 4 hectares, a maximum of 100 square meters on parcels under 4 hectares, and a maximum of 280 square meters on parcels over 4 hectares. So that can only be permitted by way of that non-adhering residential use application to the ALC. So the bylaw needs to be amended for the temporary farm worker housing to make that clear. And then again, there is a farm residential footprint in place. That is currently a maximum of 2,000 square meters and 500 additional square meters if there's a farm employee residence. And that also governs where those residential uses can be sited on the parcel. So I think that's it. That was a really quick overview there. But if there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to try and answer them. I was hoping that we would have Conley from the ministry joining us tonight, but it doesn't look like he's here, unfortunately. So if there's questions that I can't answer, I can certainly take them away and get a response for you.
Are there any questions? Are there any questions? All right, I have a quick question for you, Alex. So if someone already has, like, how does someone get in compliance with this? If this is.
Well, so in compliance with our zoning or in compliance with the change in provincial regulations? With the two pieces there. So
I guess both then?
So I think with our zoning, and Kim can jump in if there's anything to add here, but that would be a rezoning process, because so if there's multiple residences on the parcel, that's not allowed under the zoning. It's only the one farm residence, and then additional residential uses if they were permitted by way of an application on a property that has the farm class and meets that need requirement.
Okay. So they still have to go through that that process with the ALC or with the SLRD to.
Yes, so there's the provincial level regulations, but again, the local land use bylaws can be more restrictive of residential uses in the ALR. So that's really what you'd need to come into compliance with, provided those residential uses meet these new provisions under the provincial changes.
All right. A second question, what does the SLRD intend to do to make sure that people are following these rules?
I might let Kim or Director Needham take that question if she's able to.
Yeah, well, like Alex said, our rules are currently more prohibitive. And so right now we're not proposing to move forward with a bylaw to change that. But if someone did wish to, apply, they could come in and for a rezoning, and we would be more open to that use, given that this is now something that the ALC, or at least the ministry, is supportive of.
Yes, Alex?
Yeah, and I can just add on the compliance piece too. So we do have a bylaw officer, but that is, it's a complaints-based process for that piece. The ALC does also have compliance and enforcement staff. So sometimes they will take on that work to ensure there's compliance.
All right.
But, yeah.
Does anyone else have any questions? No. All right. We don't need to vote on anything like that. So I suppose that means we will go on to the 2022 AAC membership. Alex is going to talk to us about that.
Thank you. So just a really quick update. I think we have one member who has been volunteering for a number of years who is not going to be renewing for 2022. But just want to thank everyone for all of their time and commitment over the years, and those that have joined in the last year. We really appreciate it. So we are going to be looking for at least one new member for 2022. Ideally more, but if we can just have one person, that will meet the membership requirements. The terms of reference set it between, we need a membership of between 6 and 11 members. So we'll be at 6 with Director Mack as well, but it would be nice to have 7 people. So if you know of anybody, I think I've sent out the information, but I'll send it again. The application form is on our website. We're accepting applications until the end of January. So please feel free to share that and encourage anyone that's interested. They're more than welcome to reach out to me with questions, and I can provide some more information for them.
Yeah, and Alex, I think the commitment so far has been, you know, there's usually maybe 3-4 meetings maximum a year. Usually they last about an hour. So it's a pretty low level volunteer commitment, I guess you could say. And it's also one that's very important because the AAC really does help to shape policy and land use in the ag lands. So, which is really important to the SLRD.
Yeah, it's really, really valuable to have the expertise of the committee for staff, and then that's something that we can bring forward to the board as well to help the decision-making process.
All right, thank you, Alex. Are there any other items that anyone would like to bring up? Yes, Alex.
Just one quick thing that a piece of information I wanted to provide to the committee that we didn't get into when we were going through the minutes from the last meeting. I just wanted to provide a quick update on the ALC application that was reviewed by the AAC back in September. So that was the non-adhering residential use application for 7334 Clover Road, and that was an application for a farm employee residence. And the AAC recommendation was basically to support the application contingent on the size being reduced to 90 square meters. So the SLRD board at their meeting of September 29th passed 2 resolutions, very similar to what the AAC recommended, so that staff forward the application to the ALC and recommend that the size be reduced to 90 square meters. And ultimately, so the applicants have decided to cancel and withdraw their application. So that didn't end up moving forward. So just an update so that everyone on the AAC is aware of where that went. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Alex. Does anyone else have any questions or items they'd like to bring up? No? All right. Do we have any next steps that we need to address, Alex?
Nothing for the committee, but I will say that I will follow up probably tomorrow at this point with the information about the presentation that's going to be given on Thursday by the ALC planner. And that will also be, so it will be live streamed, so you can watch it live, but it's also going to be recorded and posted on our website. So for anyone that's not able to attend at 11, you'll still be able to watch that full presentation.
And that'll be posted on the SLRD website.
It will be, and I'll send all the details by email to the AAC members tomorrow, so everyone has them.
Okay. All right, would someone like to move to adjourn the meeting? All right, Simone. Is someone up for seconding it? Elliot? Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice evening.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.